All right, welcome to week 3 of ALC314. This week our focus is going to be on analyzing display ads. It's not that you haven't done this before, but we're going to try to work it with understanding how signs can be used to analyze it even a bit better. Now, some of you are getting very sophisticated at your analysis, and I'm really enjoying the discussion boards. So a lot of you are contributing. Not everyone is contributing. And the other thing I want to advise you at this stage is, as we move towards the first assignment, looking at other people's comments and discussions is really going to help, particularly this week, but literally the last 2 weeks as well. You're going to learn techniques from other people about how to analyze. And this week, we're just going to focus on them a little bit more closely. I'm just going to go to the second slide now for today. Now, what I want you to do is understand that analysis is breaking things down. That's what it means. That's where it comes from. That's the Greek roots of the word. And then it means making sense, putting it together to make sense of a current condition, a current object, a current practice. So one of the things that you've been really good at so far, some of you have backgrounds that help you do this, but I want you to keep that critical stance and posture. And I want you to understand that advertising is something that deserves criticism, and I think you guys are aware of that. But I also want you to do this second thing, which is try to understand advertising from the industry itself perspective. And what that means is, where you're often asked, when you have fights with siblings or, parents, put yourself in my shoes for a minute. I want you to think of why is the industry itself doing that? The people who make the products, why are they involved in this process of producing these images and meanings around their ads? And out of that, I want you to identify what is the effect on the culture, meaning how does it affect us as consumers? So this week, in that analysis, we're going to try to focus on one key term, and that term is gender. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about gender is it kind of divides our meaning system into a binarism. Now, we can talk about LBGTI, but it is still about gender. And all of those divides are ways in which we situate and naturalize meaning in our culture. So, in terms of advertising, particularly historical advertising, and we're still doing that before we get to the contemporary, which is coming up soon, is that it kind of identifies what we should want and what we should like. In their identification of male and female desires, they get very close to saying, this is what we should be doing. And so what I want you to do this week is I want you to say, how does advertising, answer this question, how does advertising rely on gender to make ads work? Okay. Now to do that, so gender's it. I want you to focus on it, do a lot with it, but I want you to work through the key words of ad analysis, advertising analysis. And they come from semiotics and semiology. And both those terms, semiotics and semiology, are literally the science of signs or the study of signs. That's all they mean. They come from two intellectually different traditions, but they're roughly the same thing. And listed there, I'm not going to go through them all right now, but are some of the key words that help you analyze signs. And I can tell that Sandy's enjoying this. She seems to be snoring over there. And what you have to do is break down the different levels of meaning that are going on in the advertisements and work out within that how a naturalized relationship to gender is made for the ad itself, but ultimately for the consumer. Now, these are the two ads I'm going to post in the discussion board. They're going to be the basis of it. I'm happy if you take another ad that's of a similar period. Let's put it at something between the 40s and the 60s. And what I want you to do with these ads, again, you can take your own this time. It doesn't have to be the ones that I provide, is I want you to integrate the analyses from the two readings, Leith and Wharton, as you go. I want you to integrate them because they kind of define two different dimensions. The Wharton one does a lot at the beginning about describing the words, and Leith does as well. But the Leith reading is really interesting because it's really close to what you have to do in the gallery assignment. and it's an analysis of how airlines advertise using flight attendants. It's a fascinating sort of thing, and if I can just click over to it for a second. Oops. You can see in the actual reading, they're trying to say, take a look. Flight attendants helped me go in the early days of commercial travel. And it's just an example that isn't that different than what we're looking at here with Liz Taylor or some other bathing beauty, apparently. But I want you to think about those gendered qualities. In the Wharton ones, they deal a lot with cars. And cars aren't necessarily masculinized. In fact, about the 1960s, they started to advertise directly to women. But nonetheless, it defines a little different ratio in the binarism about what they might mean. And that's about it for this week. So do your best with it and stay on it, keep that critical edge, and I'll see you on the discussion boards.